Once upon a time in the magical land of streaming television, a show appeared. This show was called. It arrived on Amazon's Prime Video with a lot of fanfare. Think trumpets, maybe a wizard or two, and definitely a large budget. The series aimed to bring a beloved and very long fantasy book series to life for millions. It was a big bet, a huge undertaking promising epic adventures and intricate plots for many seasons to come. Many people were, understandably, quite excited about this. The journey began in 2021, a time when every streaming service wanted its own. And why not? Fantasy means big worlds, loyal fans, and if you're lucky, lots of awards. Seemed to fit that bill perfectly. It had magic, prophecies, good versus evil, and a sprawling cast of characters. The source material was rich, with 14 massive books. That's a lot of story to tell. This essay will explore exactly why the wheel stopped turning after just 3 seasons. When first premiered back in November 2021, it didn't just knock on the door, it practically kicked it down. The show had a massive debut. It became Prime Video's most watched series premiere of that entire year. Think about that. All the shows Amazon released, and this fantasy epic came out on top. That's a very big deal indeed. It was a sign that audiences were hungry for this kind of storytelling. This strong start was incredibly important for Prime Video. They had invested a significant amount of money into the series. They were clearly hoping for a flagship franchise, something to stand alongside the biggest names in television. Was positioned as one of their great hopes to capture a large slice of the fantasy audience pie, and for a while it looked like they had a genuine winner on their hands. The numbers were impressive. Not only was it the biggest premiere of 2021 for them, but it also ranked as one of Prime Video's top 5 series launches of all time. But as we now know, the initial blaze of glory didn't quite translate into sustained, long-term fire. Let's talk about the critics, those people who watch TV for a living and then tell us what they think. For their opinions actually got better over time. Season 1, when it first landed, received a respectable 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a solid score. It means most critics thought it was pretty good. Then came Season 2. The story continued, the characters developed, and the show seemed to find its footing a bit more. And the critics noticed. The Rotten Tomatoes score for the second season climbed to 86%. This was a clear indication that the creative team was learning, adapting, and improving. The storytelling was getting tighter, the visuals more confident. And then, we arrive at Season 3, which was released just last month on April 17, 2025. Critically speaking, this season was a triumph. It achieved an astounding 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. If the show was so good, why pull the plug? Well, critical acclaim, while wonderful, doesn't always pay the bills. The television series is not an original story. It is based on a very, very famous series of fantasy books. These books were primarily written by Robert Jordan. After Mr. Jordan passed away, another talented author, Brandon Sanderson, completed the series using Jordan's extensive notes. This literary foundation is both a blessing and a significant challenge for any TV adaptation. It's a huge world to capture. We are talking about an epic in the truest sense of the word. The book series consists of 14 main novels plus a prequel. Each of these books is quite hefty. Imagine trying to condense all that complex plot, intricate magic systems, and hundreds of named characters into a television format. It's a monumental undertaking. The sheer scale is daunting, to say the least. Adapting such beloved and sprawling source material is incredibly difficult. Pleasing everyone is an impossible task. Section 5, The Audience Drifts, a tale of declining viewership. Remember that fantastic 97% Rotten Tomatoes score for Season 3? That critical adoration is lovely. However, it seems the viewing public wasn't quite as uniformly enthusiastic, or at least not in the massive numbers needed. While Season 3, which premiered on April 17, 2025, did initially perform well, hitting the #1 spot on Prime Video in multiple countries, this success was somewhat short-lived. It started strong but couldn't maintain that momentum. The problem was that after a promising start, viewership figures began to wane. According to reports, Season 3 dropped out of Nielsen's top 10 originals streaming chart after just its first 3 weeks of release. For a flagship show with such a high budget and critical acclaim, this is not the kind of trajectory the studio would have hoped for. This decline in viewership for the 3rd season was particularly concerning because it reportedly drew fewer viewers than both Season 1 and Season 2. This trend of a shrinking audience is a major red flag for any television series, especially one that is expensive to produce. The dwindling viewership became a critical factor in the discussions about the show's future, or lack thereof. Section 6. The Price of Magic, Sky-High Production Costs. Creating a believable fantasy world, filled with intricate details, sprawling landscapes, and spectacular magic, costs money, a lot of money. For a series which aimed to bring a vast literary universe to life, the production costs were inevitably and reportedly enormous. Think about what's involved. Elaborate costumes for countless characters, massive and detailed sets for different cities and cultures, and of course, a huge amount of visual effects. Every magical spell, every fantastical creature, every epic battle sequence requires significant investment in CGI and post-production work. These are not cheap elements. Furthermore, filming often takes place in multiple international locations to capture the varied environments of the world. Add to this a large ensemble cast, stunt performers, and a massive crew, and the budget for each season quickly climbs into the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. The high production costs were undoubtedly a major consideration when Amazon and Sony looked at the show's overall performance. Section 7. The Cold Hard Numbers. Why Season 4 Became a Dream. So let's put the pieces of this rather sad puzzle together. On one hand, we have a television series that was becoming increasingly well-made, earning rave reviews for its third season. On the other hand, we have viewership figures that were, it seems, heading in the wrong direction, downwards. And underpinning all of this, we have the very high cost associated with producing such an ambitious fantasy epic. This combination created a perfect storm. For a major corporation like Amazon, which owns Prime Video, decisions about content are often driven by a fairly straightforward calculation return on investment. Is this expensive show bringing in enough new subscribers? Is it keeping existing subscribers happy and preventing them from leaving? Is it generating enough buzz and value for the platform to justify its continued, substantial cost? These are the hard questions that get asked. If a series carries a hefty price tag season after season, but its audience isn't growing or is actively shrinking, it becomes increasingly difficult to justify its continuation from a purely business perspective. Ultimately, this financial reality appears to be the core reason why a fourth season will not be produced. Section 8. Behind the Curtain. The studio's difficult decision. The decision to cancel after 3 seasons wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't a whim. According to reports, this conclusion was reached after lengthy deliberations. These discussions would have involved all the key players responsible for bringing the show to life. Primarily, this means Amazon MGM Studios, who own Prime Video, and Sony Pictures Television, who co-produced the series. These two major studios had a shared interest in the show's success. They both invested resources, time, and reputation into the project. When a show of this magnitude is on the line, many factors are weighed carefully. They would have looked at detailed viewership data not just from the premiere week, but over the entire run of Season 3. They would have scrutinized the production budgets and projected costs for future seasons. The outcome was the cancellation of the series, making Season 3 its unexpected and for many premature finale. Section 9. The pattern is broken, fan reactions, and an uncertain future. The news that would not be returning for a 4th season was, as you might expect, met with considerable disappointment and frustration from its fans. Many had invested years in Robert Jordan's books and were thrilled to see the story unfold on screen. They had followed the characters' journeys, celebrated the show's improvements, and were eagerly anticipating future seasons that would adapt more of the vast source material. The cancellation felt like a blow. For these viewers, the decision means the televised version of the story will remain incomplete. With 14 main books in the series, 3 seasons could only ever scratch the surface of the epic narrative. Key plot lines, character arcs, and the ultimate resolution of the grand conflict against the Dark One will now not be seen in this particular adaptation. This sense of an unfinished journey is often the most painful part of a premature cancellation for any dedicated audience. Is there any hope for it to continue in some other form, perhaps on a different platform? It's a long shot. While Save Our Show campaigns are common, and some series have occasionally found new homes after being canceled, it's a rare occurrence, especially for a production as large and expensive as this one. For now, though, this turning of the wheel has come to a halt, leaving fans to wonder what might have been.